Rob Font versus Jose Aldo takes place this weekend in the main event of UFC Fight Night Vegas 44, Font versus Aldo, and I can't wait for this bantamweight main event. Two top 5 contenders in the bantamweight division. Number 4 in the world, Rob Font, versus number 5 in the world and GOAT of the sport, Jose Aldo Jr. This is a perfect title elimination bout in any other division other than bantamweight, because right now at bantamweight, it is such a log jam at the top. You've got TJ Dillashaw waiting for his own title shot. The winner of this one probably won't even get a title shot. So this isn't even a title elimination bout, but it's still an amazing matchup in the main event of a fight night. These are the types of main events that fight nights were made for. Forget about Vieira versus Tate, because I sat through that at UK time 5 AM for 25 minutes and watched that entire charade. These are the types of main events that I'll stay up into the early hours of the morning to watch, and I'll enjoy every second of, because this is high level skill. This is the bantamweight division, one of the best divisions in the UFC, if not the best skilled division in the entirety of the UFC. I love the bantamweight division and I love this matchup, and both guys right now are on win streaks. Jose Aldo on a 2-fight win streak since a 3-fight losing streak to Alexander Volkanovski, Marlon Moraes, and Piotr Jan. A lot of people think he beat Marlon Moraes. I think it could actually go to Marlon Moraes, but still, very good fights. Alexander Volkanovski is right now on his way to becoming the featherweight GOAT himself. Not there yet, but could be soon. Piotr Jan right now is on his way to becoming the bantamweight GOAT himself. Not there yet, but could be soon. Those aren't too bad of losses to have on your career. And Rob Font's on a good win streak as well, but Aldo recently bounced back on a 2-fight win streak against Marlon Vera and Pedro Munoz, 2 really good wins in the bantamweight division. Marlon Vera has been looking good since that fight, and Pedro Munoz is now taking on Dominic Cruz and staying active in the bantamweight division. Jose Aldo beat Pedro Munoz, and he looked like the best Aldo we've ever seen. And I'm not even over-exaggerating there. He looked on point in that fight really well, and Pedro Munoz is a nightmare matchup for Jose Aldo. He's a pressure striker with a good chin, good pace, good volume, keeps the pace on his opponents. That's usually what does defeat a guy like Jose Aldo, but no, he showed in that fight. Not only did he show that he can beat a nightmare style matchup for himself, but he also showed that he can win the 3rd round against a pressure striker that's aiming to walk him down and do damage the entire fight long. He can win the 3rd round, and actually I believe the 3rd round might have been one of the best Jose Aldo rounds in that fight. He outlanded Pedro Munoz 47-14 in the 3rd round of that bout. If that doesn't show improvement, I don't know what does. Rob Font, on the other hand, is on a 4-fight win streak right now. He beat Sergio Pettis, which didn't look like a great win at the time, but even still, Sergio Pettis is currently the bantamweight Bellator champion, so it is kind of a decent win if you consider it that way. And honestly, if he beats Kyoji Horiguchi in a couple of weeks' time, or maybe even this weekend, I think it's actually this weekend, that'll make Rob Font look even better beforehand. But he then went on to beat Ricky Simone, which is an extremely underrated win in the bantamweight division. It was a very close fight, but Rob Font did more damage. He got taken down a bunch of times in that fight, controlled a little bit here and there, but worked his way back up to his feet and out-damaged Ricky Simone in the last 2 rounds of that fight. Rob Font has done really well recently, especially in his last 2 bouts against top-level competition in the bantamweight division. He destroyed Marlon Moraes in the 1st round, which is a good win, but at the same time, who knows how Marlon Moraes' chin was at that time. I think Aldo might have fought a better version of Marlon Moraes, because Corey Sandhagen will kick KO'd Marlon Moraes pretty badly and broke his orbital in that fight as well. And then Marlon Moraes, just 2 months later, turned around immediately to take on Rob Font and got chinned afterwards. No surprise there. He also just got chinned by Merab Dvalishvili and beaten up on the ground as well. But it's a good win over Marlon Moraes, a guy who Aldo had trouble with and arguably lost to. And also Rob Font destroyed him in the 1st round with a clean uppercut to a jab combo, put him down in the 1st round, took him out of there. And then Cody Garbrandt recently, that was an amazing performance. He dominated Cody Garbrandt, arguably could have won every single round of that fight. Some judges actually gave Garbrandt 2 of the rounds. You know what I'm talking about with these pre-written scorecards? Watch that fight again. The only arguable round that Cody Garbrandt can win is round 1, and no other round in that fight. And one judge had the audacity, Derek Clearly, to give Cody Garbrandt 2 of those rounds. Round 5 was given to Cody Garbrandt, and Rob Font outstruck him 45-15 on significant strikes. You can't make this stuff up. They didn't want Rob Font to be here, but he's here anyway, and he dominated Cody Garbrandt. But can he dominate Jose Aldo? That's the big question, because Jose Aldo is a different beast, and I do believe that Jose Aldo is going to defeat Rob Font this weekend. I think it's a good matchup for Aldo, a boxing-style matchup, because Rob Font rarely throws anything other than hands. He has got some kicks here and there. He'll throw a leg kick maybe here and there, maybe a front kick to the stomach and a front kick to the head now and again, maybe a rare head kick. I think he threw one head kick against Thomas Almeida. It landed perfectly and put Almeida out, and then he finished Almeida, and that was a really good win for Rob Font as well. But still, I feel as though he mainly just boxes. It's the New England cartel style. Calvin Kattar does the same thing. He mainly boxes. He'll throw a leg kick here and there, and maybe he'll throw a good front kick to the body or a good front kick to the head, but he rarely does anything else. I don't see Jose Aldo shooting for a takedown here. I don't see Rob Font shooting for a takedown here. I think this is going to be a stand-up match, and Font is a boxer against Jose Aldo. I think Aldo's got this one in the bag. I think he's going to chop up Rob Font's leg. I think he's going to go to the body of Rob Font as well. I think he's going to land big shots upstairs on Rob Font, and I don't think Rob Font is going to be able to pressure Jose Aldo like he was able to pressure Cody Garbrandt, because against Cody Garbrandt, he arguably wasn't really even pressuring him that much. He has a 6-inch reach advantage over Cody Garbrandt. He's not in a danger zone. In my opinion, there's two different types of pressure. Rob Font has kind of got that Canelo style of pressure where you linger just outside of range, you pull back when your opponent throws, and then you land a big shot, and then you start walking them down, cutting off the cage, and then they throw again, and you dip back and land a big shot. Rob Font throws an uppercut much like Canelo does in his boxing career. That looping uppercut on the counter that he landed on Billy Joe Saunders. Rob Font landed that on Cody Garbrandt and rocked him a couple of times in their bout. So that's something that Aldo has to watch out for, but Aldo's rarely overextended. He rarely rushes in first. I think this is going to be a very patient, very, very patient fight, and I think Aldo's going to win this fight 3 rounds to 2. I think Font could win the last 2 rounds. I think that's in agreement with everyone. I don't see Aldo winning those last 2 rounds. If Aldo does go to a decision and wins the last 2 rounds of this fight, he's recently taken EPO, and that's maybe the only example I can come up with, unless he's destroyed Rob Font and broken his orbital and dropped him 5 times in the first 3 rounds, and Font's just a shell of himself in those later rounds. If Aldo can keep a pace up and destroy Rob Font in the last few rounds of this fight, if it's competitive, he's probably on EPO right now, but even still, Aldo has shown a massive improvement in cardio, so I think he can secure those first 3 rounds. I don't know if Font can secure those first 3 rounds against Aldo. Aldo was doing good in the first 3 rounds against Piotr Jan. He lost the first round. He got hit to the body quite badly on the ground and had, I think, maybe one of his ribs broken or something, because he made an immediate grimace on his face and covered up and hurt his body really badly. I thought it was going to be a first round TKO to Piotr Jan when I watched it live. Second round, Aldo comes back and beats Piotr Jan in the second round. Third round, he makes it razor close against Piotr Jan. I lent the way of Piotr Jan. In the 4th and 5th, he gets absolutely destroyed, but that's what Piotr Jan seems to do to most bantamweight contenders, is destroy him in those later rounds. I reckon Piotr Jan would destroy Rob Font in those later rounds. I just don't think Rob Font has the pressure style enough to take one to give one against Jose Aldo, and I think that's what you have to do to pressure him. Holloway had to get down in Aldo's face and take 5 shots to give back 3 good body shots, and then Aldo started to slow down. When you look at people that have pressured Aldo in his career, even Piotr Jan, he was taking shots in the pocket and trying to give back 2 of them afterwards. Rob Font is not the kind of pressure fighter to take shots to give them. I think he's the kind of pressure fighter too. Once he's realised you can't really do anything to him, he just starts walking you down and piecing you up. It's not like a game plan of I'm going to pressure this guy from the get-go in a fight. It's kind of like he figures out that I'm better than this guy, and then he can kind of do whatever he wants. Because in other fights, he didn't really pressure his opponents too well, other than the Cody Garbrandt fight, and I don't see him doing it here against Jose Aldo. Against Ricky Simone, it was a pretty slow-paced fight. He eventually started doing good in the 3rd round and had a decent 2nd round as well. But it's not like he was just destroying Ricky Simone, but even still, it was a close round, a close fight. Rob Font definitely did more damage and won that fight very clearly. Against Sergio Pettis, I feel like Pettis was the guy that was walking him down most of the fight. Font got some takedowns here and there and landed a couple of ground and pound shots, but Pettis was the one coming forward. He was looking for his way on the inside, and that's a flyweight in Anthony Pettis, or Sergio Pettis, sorry, should I say. Mini Sean Brady. But still, I think Rob Font's a very good fighter, very capable fighter, but against these opponents, if you look at the reach of Cody Garbrandt, a 6-inch reach advantage for Rob Font. Aldo is giving up 1.5 inches of reach here against Rob Font. I think that's a massive difference for Font, and it shows in his recent performances. I don't believe that Cody Garbrandt is that much worse than Sergio Pettis. To have a night and day comparison in performances. Font outstruck Pettis every round and won it clearly, but didn't really dominate him. He dominated Cody Garbrandt. I don't think Garbrandt's that much worse than Sergio Pettis. The difference is, Pettis can actually kind of reach Rob Font because he's got quite a long reach for a flyweight contender at the time moving up. Other guys that have had long reaches have been able to give some problems to Rob Font. Marlon Moraes is a bit of a glass cannon, so he can get KO'd by the jab and stuff like that, but I don't see that happening to Aldo. I just spat everywhere, by the way. I don't know what that was. A fountain of spit came out of my mouth. I'm very excited for this matchup. Aldo's very good, and I think he can chop at the legs, and I think he can go to the body, and I think he can outmatch Rob Font in the first 3 rounds, and I think if he does that, he'll survive the last 2 because he's chopped at the legs, he's gone to the body, and Font's not going to be the healthiest guy alive come the 4th and 5th round to start walking down Aldo and taking shots to give him, because again, Rob Font against Pedro Munoz, a fight that happened not that long ago, I believe. It was in 2017, which is quite some time ago, but not too long ago, he lost to Pedro Munoz. He was doing good in that fight, and then Pedro Munoz caught him, dropped him badly, hurt him pretty bad, and Font sort of staggered to the canvas, and then Pedro Munoz locks up the guillotine choke and subs him in the first round. None of that happened against Aldo. Munoz wasn't even a threat against Aldo. The first round happened, it was reasonably competitive. Aldo was calm, patient, won the first round clearly, and then won the second and third. Marlon Vera is a pressure fighter that will take one to give one. He couldn't figure out how to accurately attack Jose Aldo. There it is, the definition of I'm going to take one and give one. Against Davy Grant, he was eating haymakers just so he could land like an inside elbow here and there and slice open Davy Grant in that fight. He was walking forward, taking haymakers, and giving some back as well. Against Frankie Edgar, he walked forward. He took shots on the chin over and over again and tried to give him back. That worked against Frankie Edgar, but against Jose Aldo, 3rd round Aldo beat 3rd round Marlon Vera. Took his back the entire round, controlled him the entire round, and stayed there until the bell sounded. I think he's got better cardio at bantamweight. I think he's got better pacing at bantamweight. I think he's good at bantamweight because it's a natural division. He's got size advantage. He's got a reach advantage. I know I said in my full card prediction video that Rob Font has never taken on a guy as big as Jose Aldo. I meant in his UFC career. I know he was a featherweight at some points outside of the UFC, but in all honesty, I don't care what size the 8-4, 5-4, and 4-3 regional bums you took on at featherweight were. I'm looking at UFC opponents. He beat a guy in his debut who was quite a big guy, but since then he hasn't really taken on anyone who's close to him in reach, and when he has, it's been close. I think Aldo's that next step above, and let's not forget, Font's not a young guy himself. He's not. 34 years of age. Aldo's 35. I know Aldo's had a longer career, but still. It's not like Aldo's the guy out of his prime and Rob Font's this young, hungry up-and-comer. Font's been out for months with injuries. He's had his knee surgeries. He's had his hand surgeries. He's taken on Aldo here. An active Aldo as well, by the way, who's fought last in August and is turning around immediately here at the start of December, which I really do like. Font hasn't fought since May. That is an advantage to Aldo again. It's just the 5 rounds that I worry about, but I do believe Aldo will go to the legs, go to the body, chop down Rob Font, and start working him, and then eventually start losing. So the way I see this fight going, first round, very, very hesitant round. Font's going to be very careful, very cautious of Aldo's power in the first round. Not really want to engage too much, just kind of see what Aldo's doing. Prod with the jab here and there, try and get his jab going, try and get his front kick going as well. Aldo will outland Rob Font in the first round, land a couple of leg kicks, land a couple of body shots, and just win the round very clearly, and Aldo's looking like a god against Rob Font compared to Garbrandt. Round 2. Good round again. Font's starting to land some big shots, but Aldo is starting to land big shots when Font goes for exchanges. Font will try to load up the uppercut, and Aldo will beat him to it with a lead hook and catch him and rock him for a second, and Font will be like, okay, I can't really do the same I can't really do the same simple shit that I did against Cody Garbrandt because Aldo actually has a brain and some fight IQ and quite a long reach as well, by the way, and quite a bit of size. So I have to worry, I have to watch out. So he scoots around, Aldo's starting to pressure him a little bit, chops at the legs some more, goes to the body a bit more, lands some good headshots. Aldo wins round 2 in a more competitive round. Round 3. Competitive round, both guys landing good shots. Aldo takes the round off more activity, more volume, more body shots, more leg kicks, and cracks Font on the chin a couple of times as well. But Font is now starting to land on Jose Aldo, but Aldo still wins the round. I'll say on significant strikes, it'll be something like 30 to 26, 24 for Jose Aldo. He's won the round clearly. Round 4, Font will edge the round. He'll start to get the better of Aldo. Aldo will put up a good fight for the first few rounds, and then Font will start to take over in the last 2 minutes, do some good work, land a couple of big combos here and there, and barely outstrike Aldo in the 4th round, and Aldo will visibly start slowing down in the last 2 minutes of that 4th round. 5th round comes about. Rob Font starts doing really good. Aldo's keeping up with him in the first 2 minutes of the round, but towards the last 3 minutes, it's Font all day. He's landing big shots. He's walking down Aldo. Aldo's shooting, maybe taking it back for a second, but Font gets it off of him, ends up on top, lands some shots. Aldo scrambles back to his feet. They're both throwing back and forth. It's an actually really fun fight here in the 5th round. Font landing big shots. Not a 10-8 round, but he's starting to really visibly beat down Aldo. Not quite a 10-8. 10-9 round in the 5th. Rob Font loses 3-2 on rounds. I don't see it happening. I think Aldo's got the grappling advantage, which is something that he's not usually used to. You can't really just shoot on Pedro Munoz because you don't like him pressuring you, because that's when he subs you, and he subs people like that every single time. The one moment Garbrandt shot on Pedro Munoz, he almost immediately ended up in a guillotine, and then almost immediately ended up in a heel hook the second time as well. He's got options here, Aldo. Like he did against Marlon Vera. He can take the back for a round. He can do that against Rob Font. Rob Font is not a jiu-jitsu wizard in any way. He's not a grappling wizard either. He's a boxer. He boxes. I think this is a great matchup for Aldo. The only worry is the 5 rounds. If this was a 3-round bout, and I think a lot of you would agree with me on this, even if you are picking Rob Font, Aldo's the underdog. But if this was a 3-rounder, I genuinely believe Aldo would be like a solid and big favourite. Not quite 2-1, but close to a 2-1 favourite over Rob Font. If this was a 3-round bout, I actually don't give Font much chance at all. He could KO Aldo. Probably not going to happen because Aldo's got a good chin. Doesn't really get KO'd. And Font arguably isn't really a KO artist. He KO'd Marlon Moraes. If beating Marlon Moraes by KO makes you a KO artist, my nan could be a KO artist because Moraes' chin is made of fucking glass. Great matchup though for 5 rounds. It's just the 5 rounds that worries me, but I'm going to trust in Aldo. He knows what he's doing, and he's an investor as well with the leg kicks and body shots, and that will benefit him in the later rounds. Plus, in his last bout against Pedro Munoz, he showed better cardio than ever, better pacing than ever, and had the best 3rd round of his entire career in my opinion. I think that's enough evidence to say that he wins. Goodbye, Toodle Pip, I'll see you later. Click that button up there. Goodbye.